There was something different about the Dallas Cowboys this offseason. And no, I'm not just talking about the big names or the flashy headlines. I'm talking about intention, about finally seeing a front office that didn't just react to problems but tried to get ahead of them. This wasn't the usual patchwork offseason where the Cowboys hope for internal growth or pray for better injury luck. No, this felt like a team actively trying to reshape its identity and finally address the issues that have kept them from making a deep playoff run for nearly 3 decades. When you really take a step back and look at the full scope of their moves, the picture becomes clear. This wasn't about chasing headlines. It was about establishing a foundation that fits the kind of football they believe can win in January: physical, explosive, and consistent on both sides of the ball. And for the first time in a while, the strategy felt connected. From who they targeted, to who they let walk, to who they retained, everything pointed to a more physical, more aggressive version of the Cowboys. We saw signs of this even before the draft. The Cowboys were reportedly more open to risk, willing to take swings and sacrifice some control in order to add proven talent. That's a departure from the ultra-conservative strategy fans have come to expect from Jerry and Stephen Jones in recent years. It's almost as if the front office finally realized that playing it safe isn't getting them over the hump, that the "we like our guys" philosophy can only take you so far. Now, don't get me wrong. The pressure is still on. No one's handing out trophies in July. But at least we're starting to see a team with a clear idea of who they want to be. And as a fan, that's refreshing. No more mixed messages, no more 1 foot in, 1 foot out. If the Cowboys are going to make a run, they needed to start by acting like a team that knows what it wants. And in 2025, it looks like they finally might. What about you? Do you feel like this team finally has a true identity heading into the season? Let me know down in the comments. Drop a simple yes or no if you think the Cowboys are heading in the right direction. And hey, while you're at it, take a second to subscribe to the channel. We're pushing toward that 15,000 subscriber milestone, and every single click helps us grow this community of die-hard Cowboys fans. All right, now that we've set the stage, let's get into the biggest move of the entire offseason. And yeah, you probably already know who we're talking about. There's no way around it. The biggest headline of the Cowboys' offseason was the bold, out-of-nowhere trade for wide receiver George Pickens. And let's be honest here. This one surprised almost everybody. Not because Pickens isn't talented, the guy is an absolute baller, but because this felt like a very un-Cowboys move. It was aggressive. It was proactive. It was the kind of trade you make when you're serious about putting your foot on the gas and chasing a championship. So let's talk about it. The Cowboys sent a 2025 second-round pick and a future conditional 4th-rounder to the Pittsburgh Steelers in exchange for Pickens. That's a real price, and it shows they weren't messing around. For years, we've watched this front office shy away from bold in-season or off-season trades, letting opportunities slip by in the name of value or cap discipline. But with this move, they flipped the script. They knew they needed more juice on offense, and they got it. Now, if you've watched Pickens play, especially last season, you already know the potential here is sky high. He's got that alpha energy, that big play mentality. He can go up and win contested balls, stretch the field, and beat you one-on-one in the red zone. And pairing him with CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Cooks gives Dallas a legit top 3 receiver trio that could stack up with any in the league. But this trade wasn't just about skill sets. It was about attitude. George Pickens brings a bit of swagger, a little edge, and frankly, that's something this Cowboys offense has been missing. Too often in big games, especially in the playoffs, Dallas has looked flat, predictable, almost afraid to let loose. Pickens changes that dynamic. He gives Dak Prescott a target who's not just dangerous after the catch, but who demands attention on every snap. Of course, there's a flip side. This move raises expectations. Big, time. Pickens isn't coming in to be a role player. He's expected to be a difference maker, a game changer, And when you give up premium draft capital to bring someone in, that spotlight gets even hotter. It also sends a loud message to guys like Michael Gallup and Jalen Tolbert. Step up or step aside. Now let's be real. There's still plenty to figure out. Can Mike McCarthy find the right way to use all three receivers without falling into predictable tendencies? Can Dak build chemistry with Pickens quickly enough for it to matter in Week 1? And how will defenses adjust when they can't just double Lamb every single play? These are the kinds of questions we'll be tracking all summer long. But for now, what we do know is this. The Cowboys didn't just make a move. They made a statement. And whether you agree with it or not, you've got to respect the boldness. So here's the question I want to throw your way. Was George Pickens worth the price? Hit the comments and give me your take. Better yet, vote in the pinned poll. Thumbs up for yes, thumbs down for no. And if you're excited to see this WR trio cook in 2025, make sure you smash that like button right now. And don't forget, we've got even more deep Cowboys coverage coming all season long, so subscribe and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss a single episode as we track Pickens' impact from camp all the way to the playoffs. Next up, we shift gears and look at something the Cowboys did quietly this offseason, retaining core players who might not make headlines, but could make a massive difference come playoff time. While the George Pickens trade grabbed the spotlight, the Cowboys were also working behind the scenes to keep their foundation intact. And honestly, this part of the offseason doesn't always get the headlines it deserves, but it might be just as important. Because sometimes the smartest move isn't going out and grabbing a new name. It's keeping the right guys already in the building. Take Tyler Biadasz, for example. Dallas re-signed the starting center to a 3-year deal after a strong 2024 campaign. Was he perfect? No. But he brought stability to an offensive line that desperately needed it. And with so much uncertainty up front, especially with the youth movement already underway, bringing back a guy who knows the system and has built trust with Dak Prescott was a no-brainer. Chemistry on the offensive line is everything, and Biadasz gives the Cowboys continuity at one of the most important positions on the field. Then there's Dorrance Armstrong, one of the more underrated pieces on this defense. Year after year, he's been productive, even if he doesn't always show up in national highlight reels. Armstrong is the kind of guy every championship defense needs, versatile, physical, and willing to do the dirty work. Re-signing him showed that Dan Quinn, and now Mike Zimmer, value players who play with relentless effort and don't need the spotlight to make an impact. Jordan Lewis also returned, which says a lot about how the Cowboys view his leadership in the secondary. He's a tone setter, a feisty, gritty slot corner who bounced back strong in 2024 after recovering from that serious foot injury. This is a guy who knows what it means to wear the star and brings intensity every single snap. Bringing him back wasn't just about on-field performance. It was about culture, about mindset, about accountability. You can see a pattern here, right? These weren't flashy moves, but they were smart moves. The Cowboys prioritize guys who know the system, know the expectations, and know what it takes to play under the pressure that comes with being in Dallas. And more importantly, they all fit the new, tougher identity the front office is trying to build. And look, we've seen teams blow up rosters in the name of change, only to realize they got worse in the process. Dallas avoided that mistake. Instead of chasing the unknown, they doubled down on what already works, while adding pieces in the right places. Here's a question for you. Which re-signing do you think will have the biggest impact in 2025? Biadasz, Armstrong, or Lewis? Let me know your pick in the comments. And if you'd rather have seen the Cowboys go younger across the board, drop that too. I want to hear your take. And hey, if you're someone who appreciates smart, strategic moves that might not make the front page but make a real difference on Sundays, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button. We're building something special here at Cowboys News TV, and your support gets us one step closer to our goal of 15,000 subscribers. Next up, though, let's talk about the other side of the equation. Because for every player the Cowboys brought back, there were a few key names they had to let go. No matter how well you manage your roster, you can't keep everyone. And for the Cowboys, that meant making some difficult choices this offseason. As much as we celebrate the players they re-signed or traded for, we've also got to look at the guys who are gone, because those departures tell us just as much about where this team is headed. Let's start with Tony Pollard. After years of waiting behind Zeke Elliott, Pollard finally got his shot as RB1 in 2023 and 2024. And while he showed flashes, he never quite became the elite difference maker some hoped he'd be. Whether it was the lingering impact of that leg injury, the lack of consistent blocking, or just the grind of being a feature back, the production didn't match the hype. The Cowboys let him walk in free agency, and honestly, it felt like the right call. Not because Pollard can't still contribute, but because the value didn't match what Dallas needed at that position. Running back is one of the most replaceable spots on the roster, and the Cowboys seem to be embracing that idea. They've added young backs, tweaked the scheme, and now look poised to go with more of a committee approach. It's a gamble, sure, but it's a calculated one, and it frees up money to invest elsewhere like the offensive line and pass rush. Now let's talk about Stephon Gilmore. Losing a veteran corner of his caliber stings. There's no denying that. Gilmore brought instant credibility to the secondary last season. He was reliable, physical, and a true professional. But at 34 years old and with younger talent like Darren Bland and Trevon Diggs returning to full health, the Cowboys decided to move on. This was less about Gilmore's ability and more about timing and financial flexibility. They're betting on the youth movement and hoping that a healthy Diggs-Bland combo can anchor the cornerback room moving forward. Other departures included rotational pieces like Jonathan Hankins and Neville Gallimore, solid contributors, but ultimately replaceable. The Cowboys seem to be leaning into their younger defensive linemen and hoping for development under new defensive coordinator Mike Zimmer. What's interesting here is that none of these moves felt desperate. Dallas wasn't scrambling. They didn't overpay to keep names just for familiarity's sake. Instead, they let guys go when the timing made sense, and that kind of discipline is rare, especially in a win-now league. But let's bring this to you. Which departure do you think hurts the most? Was it Pollard, Gilmore, or someone else entirely? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's see which name Cowboy Nation misses the most in 2025. And if you respect the way Dallas handled these decisions, tough but calculated, hit that like button right now. It helps get this video in front of more fans just like you. And don't forget, we're climbing toward 15,000 subscribers, so if you haven't joined the family yet, now's the time. Hit subscribe and turn that bell on. All right, we've looked at who's in, who's staying, and who's out. But now comes the real question. Are the Cowboys actually better? This is the part where it all comes together. The George Pickens trade. The smart re-signings, the departures of Pollard, Gilmore, and others, the draft picks, the coaching tweaks. It's time to ask the only question that really matters. Is this Dallas Cowboys team actually better than the one that flamed out last season? On paper? Yeah, you can make a strong case. They added a legit vertical threat in Pickens, kept their locker room leaders intact, and cut ties with players whose price tags no longer matched their production. That's a pretty solid trifecta for an NFL offseason. But you and I both know it's not that simple. Not in Dallas, and not when you've got expectations this big. The success of this entire offseason hinges on a few major factors. First, how quickly can the offense mesh with Pickens in the mix? Because talent is one thing, but chemistry, that takes time. Dak Prescott has to find rhythm with his new weapon, and Mike McCarthy needs to prove he can design an offense that gets the best out of all three of his top receivers. If they can do that, this passing attack could be lethal. Then there's the defense. The Dan Quinn era is over, and now Mike Zimmer is calling the shots. That's a shift in tone, in scheme, and in mindset. Zimmer's defenses are known for being smart, physical, and unpredictable, but they're also demanding. The young core, especially guys like Micah Parsons, Darren Bland, and Mazi Smith, will need to step up fast, and that transition might be bumpy early on. There's also depth to think about. Injuries hit hard last year, and Dallas had trouble filling gaps quickly. This year's roster looks deeper in a few key areas, but we won't know until the games actually start. The margin for error in the NFC is razor thin, and with teams like the Eagles, Lions, and 49ers loading up too, every little edge matters. But here's what gives me hope. The Cowboys didn't run it back out of comfort. They made real moves. They changed the structure of the team. They showed urgency. And for once, it feels like the front office is willing to take the heat if things don't work, because they're not hiding behind "we like our guys" anymore. So let's throw it back to you one last time. What's your gut telling you? Are the 2025 Cowboys better than the 2024 version? Are they true playoff contenders, or are we still riding the same roller coaster we've been on for 25+ years? Drop your answer in the comments. Let's start a real conversation. And if you're riding with this team through the changes, through the pressure, through all the noise, now's the time to show it. Hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. We're closing in on 15,000 subscribers, and every single one of you helps us grow this community of loyal, passionate fans who bleed blue and silver. This season's going to be wild, and we'll be here for every second of it. So stick around. Cowboys News TV isn't slowing down anytime soon.